Julian, let's start by talking about your take on the copper world at the moment.
Yeah, James, we're very bullish about copper. You know, it's not for many reasons, but not just the demand side of the equation, but on the supply chain. We think there's problems there long term. There's very few new projects coming online in the next 5 years. And if they are, then they're hugely capitalised, very exposed to energy cost, low grades. So that opens a real opportunity for mod resources in our sediment-hosted copper deposits in Botswana.
Let's talk about what's happened since our pre-feasibility study, which was recent. Things have progressed since then. How would you sort of sum it all up?
The pre-feasibility study, we announced the results in January. It was a very robust outcome. We're looking at a base case 10-year mine, or potentially an upside case open pit mine of maybe up to 12 years. The NPV is a substantial, well north of $400 million US for a startup project. The EBITDA peaks at over $1 billion US for the upside case, and the IRRs are sort of numbers that people dream about.
Talk about the sort of progress you've made since the pre-feasibility earlier this year. What's happened since then? A
lot's gone on. We're progressing at a rapid pace through the full feasibility study to get to a decision to mine. We're targeting that end of the first quarter next year. With that goes community and social engagement. We've established a community relations office in our hometown of Hunzi, and that's working very, very well. We've developed some very strong relations at a local and a community and a government level, and there's a lot of support in Botswana for that. On the pre-feasibility study, I just want to point out that that was completed within 2 years, less than 2 years actually, from the discovery drill hole. And our shareholders remember that hole. It was 53 metres at 2% copper, and that really got people's attention globally. So in the intervening time, we've been conducting all this feasibility work, building our resource base. So we're sitting around about 36 million tonnes in resources. But more importantly, we've been really getting to understand the potential of this copper belt.
I sense, and I know that you're passionate about this project, but I sense that you see something very special here that maybe you haven't seen before.
I've worked on a lot of exploration projects globally, and this one, the scale of the potential is something I've never come across before. So if I look at what MOD's been doing in the last 2 years since the discovery, been exploring a 50 square kilometre holding on one farm block in an area that extends over 11,000 square kilometres. So we're very excited about what the potential could be.
Why has no one else come across this and developed it?
It's down to the geology. There's very little outcrop first up. There's a layer of calcrete at very shallow depth, only a metre below the surface, and we think that what's happened is it's masked the copper response in the underlying rocks presenting itself to surface. So the soil anomalies that we drill and we get excited about are 1/10 of the soil anomalies up the eastern end of the belt, where there's been 25 years of exploration and drilling, and where there's some 7 million tonnes in resources, and many companies have operated up there, but the 2/3 of the copper belt that we're exploring has just been overlooked.
It's amazing. Talk about that sort of progress as well, from sort of being the explorer to developer. How's that going?
James, we've really beefed up our team. We've got some really battle-hardened Aussie miners, processing guys, explorers, and they're really acting as consultants to our Botswana company, Sekutu Metals. Sekutu's getting really quite well known in Botswana, and this is a country that really wants to diversify its economy outside of diamonds. So what we've done is create a new model, I think. We're bringing the very best standards from Australia that we possibly can into Botswana. We're building a village. It starts at 40 people. That will go up to 400 people. We'll become the first mine in a new region. And we've got a very solid training program in place in Botswana to get more Botswana people involved in this project.
Let's just talk about the space, this huge area that we're talking about, thousands of kilometres. How on earth do you know where to go with this?
We're using electromagnetics because it's a really unique situation. It appears to have defined a series of very unusual flat-lying domes, and they're almost like eggs in an egg carton sort of format. We've only ever drilled one of these domes. That's the T3 dome, and we found T3 in the first drill hole. So we've been spoiling to get our rigs started. They are started, and we're going to test the very best of those targets in the next few months.
Just finally, what is happening over the next few months?
We've got a lot of things on here, James, and news flow will be very strong. We anticipate that at the time of strong interest in new copper projects as well. So near term we have a new revised resource coming from T3. We've got all this exploration underway along the T3 dome. We're moving towards opening up the T20 dome, which is further to the west of T3 dome, but part of that same belt that we consider highly prospective. We are drilling out underground resources at the T1 and T3 deposits below the current T3 planned pit, so that we have additional potential production to process through that same processing plant to be established at T3. Then in the back of that, I guess, there's a global marketing push by us. We've got strong interest from London, and that's been demonstrated already this week, talking to funds, and we're recognising that there is a real lack of new copper projects which have this sort of scale and the potential for more discoveries.
Amazing. There's so much going on. Great to talk to you. Thank you.
Thanks very much indeed, James.